Welcome to the Morgan Branding Podcast. Just a side note before we get into today's podcast, we want to do a series where we invite guests onto the show where you can discuss your business, your experiences, your life, and do these episodes in around about maybe 15, 20, 25 minutes, depending on how they're going. So if you would like to get involved in the show, you own a business in Warrington or the surrounding areas, because we would like to record them in our offices, then please get in touch, reach out to us on social media, and we'd love to get you on board. Now, onto the show. Welcome to episode 10. In this episode, we thought we'd talk through some of my personal, Callum Morgan is speaking now if you forget who I am, recommended podcasts. So some of you may be listening to this podcast who don't listen to any other podcasts. You've just seen us sharing our podcasts around and you dip in and out when you feel like it. We maybe are the ones that have got you into podcasts. Maybe you've started dipping your toes into other podcasts available and realise how poor maybe our content is. But these are some of the ones that I listen to or have got inspiration from, and I am the person who is listening to. I probably have about 12 or 13 that I listen to on a regular basis, but these are the ones that I tend to click on first because 90% of the time I've got 100, 200 episodes sat there waiting for me to listen to. So the first one I've pulled out is Marketing School. So this is a podcast by Eric, Sue, and I've forgotten the other guy's name, but there's two blokes who are into marketing. It's short episodes, similar to the style that we've gone for here, 4, 5, 6 minute episodes. So it's really easy to dip in and out of. These give you practical tips that you can do. Some episodes you listen to and think, that's not for me, it's not for my business. And some you can dive straight in on and do kind of straight after you've listened to that episode. So this is well worth listening. Whether you're into marketing or you just own a business, I would recommend listening to this podcast and seeing what you can get out of it. My second podcast, this is probably my favourite one that I listen to at the minute. It's called How I Built This. So I used to be a big fan of storybooks, story tapes, kind of fiction novels. I never read as a kid. I couldn't read. I'm dyslexic, so my mum had always got me into listening to storybooks. So whether that be Harry Potter as a kid or growing into kind of more crime novels or things like that. So for me, stories were always a great thing with podcasts. It's not just about learning, although with How I Built This, you can learn as well if you're a business owner, because you listen to other business owners and how they built up their business and where they're at now. So I would really recommend listening to that. It's by NPR, the company. So How I Built This, very, very good podcast to listen to. Another big favourite of mine is called The Diary of a CEO. So this is done by Stephen Bartlett, who is the founder and CEO of Social Chain in Manchester, so they're not too far away from us. Stephen's a little bit younger than me, a couple of years younger than me, but has built up a huge agency in Manchester that's kind of, they don't just do stereotypical market agency things, they really try and mix things up. They've won loads of awards for some of the campaigns they've done, and it's really interesting for me to listen to him on his journey. Obviously he's a few years on from me. If I'm where he is in 3-4 years time, I'll be really happy, but he gets other business owners onto that podcast as well. So kind of recurring theme for me is listening to other business owners and the problems that they've gone through, and the good times and the bad times, which can help you get some drive. The other podcast that kind of got me into podcasting, but to be honest, I don't really listen to as much now, is a podcast by Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if anyone listeners come across Gary Vaynerchuk. He's kind of a Marmite character, love him or hate him. I used to listen to all his stuff, and he's kind of had the effect that he always threatens that he has on people, that once you've listened to me, you'll stop listening to me because you'll be out there doing, and that's where I feel I'm at now. Gary is kind of very repetitive, but he's repeating the right kind of messages. So very, good guy to listen to, very motivational for me. So sometimes you're having a bad day, it's good to listen to. So they're 4 of my podcasts that I listen to or have listened to. So the Gary V podcast were the podcast that got me into podcasting, and now I've moved on to other things. You can also look out for industry specific podcasts. I listen to some hotel marketing podcasts and other companies doing what we're doing to gain ideas, to get inspiration, and just to grow your network. So well worth looking out for some other podcasts if we're the only one you're listening to at the minute. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Branding Podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, our handles are at Morgan_branding, or you can follow myself, Callum Morgan, on the same platforms. Cheers.